Hey guys, one thing I've wanted to make a video about that I just hadn't got around to for some time now is, I guess you would call it an NDE that happened to me when I was, I think it was 7th or 8th grade, and I was in band. I played the trumpet, and the band class was in one of those old mobile units. If you've been in a lot of rural areas, they'll have these little mobile, they look almost like little trailers, very small class setting. Maybe you get 15 to 20 people in there. And I was in band, and our mobile unit was down near the tennis courts. And if we arrived a little bit early, sometimes some of the kids in the class, we would go out onto the tennis court and just run or just goof around, whatever. We didn't have any tennis rackets or tennis balls or anything, so we didn't play tennis. But this particular day, I remember us going down to the tennis court, and literally the last thing I actually remember was stepping foot onto the tennis court. Now, I've been told what happened was several of the kids were jumping over the top of the tennis net, and that when I saw that, I immediately stepped on the court, took off running towards the tennis net, and went to jump the top of the tennis net. Now, when I jumped, my foot got hung in the top rung of the net, and I immediately, I'm vertical when I'm jumping, and I go horizontal with my head going straight towards the asphalt, and I smack the asphalt with the top of my head. Now, whether or not it knocked me unconscious, I have no idea. Again, the last thing I remember from being in my body is stepping onto the tennis court. Now, during this time, I can see myself basically from the point where my friends come around me, they kind of pick me up, they have me, one has me on one shoulder, the other one's kind of carrying me on the other shoulder, and they have me kind of between them. And I can see them from where I'm at. Now, where I'm at is the weird part. I am floating above my middle school, and something is holding me. Basically, if you've ever seen images of the leper or the poor man outside the gate that was in Abraham's bosom, if you've ever seen images of him being carried, it's almost like the way you're attached to a skydiver. If you jump tandem, like they're right behind you, you're kind of buckled in to them. And that's what's happening. Something has me, whether they've got their arm around me or whatever, I'm basically attached to them, floating above the middle school, and I'm looking down, and I can see the trailer, I can see the tennis courts, and I see my friends literally carrying me up the hill from the tennis courts towards the band trailer. And then next to the band trailer, fortunately, was the nurse's office. I can see them carrying me up the steps into the nurse's office. And the weird thing is, this whole time it feels like I'm asleep. Like I don't know if I'm dreaming, or if I feel like I'm in that state where you're kind of, you know what you're watching isn't, you're not feeling any pain from it or anything, and you can see yourself going through all of this, but it's that feeling of like, well, hey, I'm not feeling any pain, I'm not going through anything, so I must be asleep. And that's kind of what my mindset at the time. And you got to remember, I'm just a kid. Okay, so I'm not processing that. Hey, I'm out of my body. Like I'm just thinking like, oh, I'm asleep. I'm just dreaming right now. And they go into the nurse's office, and I remember, I don't know if I came down towards it or whatever, but I remember there being a long hall. Now, I had never been in that building before, so I don't really know what I was in that nurse's office building they have next to the band camp. But I remember there being a long hall that I could see down, and I could still see them like kind of carrying me, and the nurse is telling them, no, get him to the main office, go ahead and take him up there, which was kind of odd. I don't understand why they didn't treat me there, but and maybe they did. Maybe I just only saw them with me in the hall. But then my friends are carrying me up to the main office of the school, which is still a good 75 yards or so that they have to carry me up there. And I remember seeing them carry me up the walkway, and as they're carrying me up the walkway, I start feeling drawn back to my body, and I'm being basically just sucked back into my body at this point. And I come to, or I'm back in my body when they get me into the office, and the nurse or the secretary there asks, do you have insurance? And we didn't have school insurance, so I'm like, no, we don't. I don't have school insurance, no. And I didn't know if, my parents probably did have insurance on me, but not like the school insurance. School offered insurance at that time. I don't know if they still do that or not, but then they called my parents. They came, picked me up, took me to the hospital immediately. They run MRIs. Of course, I have a concussion, and they checked me out. And the doctor told me, and I remember I was trying to explain what was going on, because at this point I don't really know what happened. I kind of know what happened, because I'm like, well, I saw myself on the tennis court, but it didn't happen to me. I saw it happening to me. And the doctor told me, I remember this was during a follow-up, because I started having these weird dreams right after this. And he told me that was normal for someone that had a head injury to start having weird dreams. And these were very vivid dreams shortly after this. Dreams about my past, things that, like Christmases that I had, where specific gifts that I was given. I was having dreams about these gifts and these things. And one of the dreams, and I'll see if I can find an image on here. One of the dreams was this thing, and I think it was called a Merlin phone or Merlin game thing or something. And I hadn't played this game in years, but I had a dream that I was playing on it, talking on it, pretending to talk on it. It was very, very bizarre. But they told me that was going to be normal. But looking back now, that had all the makings of an NDE, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but that's basically what that was. And that was probably my first ever encounter with anything supernatural to that degree. And I'm assuming the being was angelic, because at that time in my life, I was a kid. I was 7th, 8th grade, but my mindset was, let's just say sin hadn't really had the impact that it had on me later on in life. I was much more pure then than I am, or than I was later, and than I am now. Of course, I mean, I'm just, I am the chief of sinners. So, but yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I mean, I don't think I've ever made a video on it, and I needed to get something down just to document it and to put it out there and see if anyone else has ever had that NDE, not where you go off to somewhere, but where you see everything that's happening played out in front of you, and yeah, you're still there. Something has you, and again, I wish, looking back, I wish I would have turned around. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't turn around. Maybe I would have been freaked out by what I've seen. If the angels are like what you read about in the Bible, then yeah, I probably would have been completely freaked out seeing something like that. So, but yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think. Take care. God bless.